biggest mistakes. Honestly, competition is crazy. You should really sit down and write a strategy. There are ways to make things more efficiently. Either way, at least you're testing it out. Then you're going to be ahead of most of your competition. Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about the 10 biggest mistakes I made when I scaled my e-com brands. And I think a lot of founders will kind of see these as things they've also struggled with during their journey on their path to 8 or 9 figures. So let's just dive straight into it. And by the way, I publish this on my podcast, but also on YouTube. So if you want to see more of a video version of this, make sure to watch this on YouTube. So the number one thing that I wish I had done better when I started scaling my e-com brands was definitely getting fulfillment sorted out way earlier. So you can have your own warehouse, you can do 3PLs, but within that, there's so many fulfillment systems you can use. Obviously, things are easier if you use Shopify and you connect everything with a 3PL. We made a lot of mistakes, one of them being running our own warehouse for way too long. It created a lot of complexity, a lot of costs, and also we ran it in a very expensive neighborhood. Rent was really high, and obviously salaries really high for people if you hire them in Scandinavia, where we were based. So things I would do differently in the future is I would use a 3PL. I would find it in a cheaper labor country, still relatively close to home. So for example, if you're in Scandinavia, that can be the Netherlands, it could be Poland, that could be Bulgaria, that could be other countries in the northern part of Europe or in the middle part of Europe. I would do that. If you're in the US, I think just getting a 3PL can really allow you to scale way faster without the complexity of hiring people and so forth. So number one is getting fulfillment sorted faster. Number two is forgetting about cash flow. Cash flow is definitely the bread and butter of an e-commerce brand, and it's really complex if you want to set up a real budget that actually takes into account your cash flow. You want to make sure you understand when you have to pay your employees, when you have to pay for stock, when you're getting cash in back from every sale you've made, when you have to pay sales tax and other things that are really like big bills, your rent and so on. So it's not just enough to have a P&L that you can see on a monthly basis. You also need a cash flow budget where you can see every single expense you will have during the next 3, 6, 12 months, and you can forecast based on that, right? Because once that is done, you can say, okay, how much money do I have left over for my ads? How much money do I have left over for salaries? How aggressive can I be in my marketing and so on? So cash flow budgets are really big. And if you Google, e-commerce cash flow budgets, you can find a lot of different templates out there, which you can start using immediately. Trust me, it's really important to do that. Now, as an e-commerce founder, a lot of people will just not have time to update it, or they don't understand why they should update that. So if you don't have time or want to do it yourself, you should get your accountant or bookkeeper to keep track of cash flow so you can understand what's going on in your business. Number 3 is neglecting legal and compliance issues. So for example, do you already have your trademarks now? Do you have your safety regulations, and do you have all your certificates? All these kind of things are very important. In Europe, GDPR is really important. Privacy laws are getting really important. So getting those things in check is it's one of the things you just have to get done. And I can tell you, if you want to sell your business one day, if you don't have those certificates, if you don't have your trademarks, it's a massive red flag, and it's going to be a discount factor when you sell your business. So, and if you just sell anything in terms of like a health related product, getting those becoming compliant there is extremely important. Again, it's going to be a discount factor, or it's going to prevent anyone from buying your business if you don't have those things set up. So that's really key as the number 3. And number 4 is ignoring your brand when you're building the business. So it's easy for us to say, we just need to pump in ads and get some sales, but branding is really important as well. They can come, in terms of packaging, in terms of customer loyalty, the identity on the website. Those things are key as well for building a long-term brand that people come back to. And brand doesn't have to necessarily be visual identity. It can also be the way you create your mission statement, the values you have as a business. So for example, how do you get people to come back over and over? That is by creating a certain brand that has a certain perspective on how they want to treat their customers and how to make sure they come back for more. If you don't write this down and actually build a strategy for how you want to do that, you're literally going to ignore your brand, and it's going to be what will kill you at scale, basically, because you can pump in ads in the beginning and it's going to be fine, but with the law of diminishing returns, you're just going to see a worse and worse and worse return on that ad spend, you can combat that by actually building a brand where people want to come back for more. You should really sit down and write a strategy for how you want to be perceived by your clients, by your customers, how you want to engage with them to make sure they come back for more. So there's one for clients, there's one for customers, there's one for packaging, there's one for website identity, and so forth. And once you have all those things in place, it's easy for you to see on a monthly basis, like, are we true to our mission? Are we actually doing the things we want to do? Or are we sort of getting off track here? So building a brand key and getting some sort of like SOPs done here is going to help you so much. Number 5 is not really embracing automations. Things you can do manually when you're smaller, let's say less than 8 figures, can kill you at scale. You know, you can automate your warehousing, you can automate customer service, you can automate all types of things related to fulfillment and so on. And I'm not saying like you should use AI chatbots and so on, and that's just how you should do it. But there are ways to make things more efficiently. So for example, having to manually drag files to a different folder, having to manually print things out, labels, whatnot, all those things can be automated. Even marketing can be automated. Customer service, you could engage people with chatbots in the beginning, and it can always escalate that to human support. But in the beginning, they will talk to a sophisticated AI chatbot. So things like that will really help you scale. And we were really slow at embracing automations. So an example was we were printing out orders and we were printing out labels manually when every order would come in, instead of just automating that. So it's always ready to go, and a picker can come and pick up those things and start fulfilling those orders. So that's one example. Another example could be marketing. If you're not automating certain things related to creatives in terms of getting new content out there, related to how you want to set up posts for the future, and you're just like manually doing all that stuff, it's gonna kill you. And you might not see it coming, but what you're noticing is that it requires so many people to fulfill your operations. You need to have so much staff on hand in order to get things done. And you're just like wondering, why is our profit so low? Well, it's because your revenue per employee is way, way, way too low. Basically, your profits are gonna go through the floor. So the way to handle that is try to automate things and stay lean, and literally make a strategy for how you can replace redundant tasks with automations, and that's going to be key for you. The next one is fearing or not really experimenting at all. So right now, I think I'm probably the guy that wants to test everything, right? So we split test everything in Purple Fire. We do this for a living for our clients. But actually, some of my first e-commerce adventures, I was not split testing things. I was not always doing CRO. And honestly, I think in the beginning, when you kind of get introduced to conversion rate optimization, you think that the best approach is to sort of just go with best practices and just implement that. But in reality, what you really need to be doing is you need to be testing things. You need to constantly be testing. And if you're a smaller brand, what I recommend you do is bulk all your changes, all the things you think will improve conversion rate up in a bigger test instead of micro testing every single little thing, right? And that can really, really help you, because you're going to see a bigger conversion increase or a bigger decline. Either way, at least you're testing it out. So it's really, really important. And as you scale, you can afford to do smaller and smaller tests where you can sort of isolate whatever you're doing, whatever you're testing. If you're on Shopify, I recommend starting out with an app where you can set up A/B tests, and it's going to be fairly simple to do that. They have drag and drop builders. You can use Supersonic, which is the software that we have been developing for A/B testing. You can also use competitor apps out there. There's Intelligems, there's A/B Tasty, there's other ones that you can be using, and it's pretty affordable, to be honest with you. And it's not going to take a lot of time for you to understand how to set up a test in there. So I recommend doing that, and it's going to help you if you can just subscribe to the philosophy that everything we change on the website we will test. Then you're going to be ahead of most of your competition, because most brands are just not testing anything at all. This one will not be relevant for every single brand, but overlooking or not, taking sustainability into account. I think this is a huge one, given that the younger customers and the millennials and so forth are thinking a lot more about sustainability. So if you have a brand that relies on shipping things, packaging, or maybe it's a fashion brand like I had, you need to think about sustainability a lot, because customers are going to demand that that you are not using plastic anymore, that you're definitely eco-conscious, and you can document what you're doing, and it has to be completely transparent. So you definitely don't want to overlook sustainability. It's just one of those things that will really move the needle as well. And then finally, one more thing, this is a huge one, underestimating the power of building a strong community. Now in e-commerce, honestly, competition is crazy. Like, there's never been more competition. Everyone is sort of like, going lower on price, and it's very difficult to make it. Ads have never been more expensive. The best way you can actually go about overcoming that is building a really, really powerful community that wants to buy from you no matter the cost, because they subscribe to what it is you're building. They love your community. They are part of something bigger. Once people feel like they're part of a tribe, a community, they will spend way more money and not be as price sensitive anymore. So this is key. And building a community can come in many different shapes. Honestly, one of the first ways you can do that is literally just create a Facebook group that you ask everyone to join after they buy, and then you make sure to have admins in there so they can make sure the content is relevant. Obviously, you want to post relevant content in there, but people just love to share. If you have a pet brand, you have a yarn brand, or any brand where people are passionate about what it is they're doing, what it is you are allowing them to achieve with the product you're selling, they want to share that. They want a community for sharing, giving each other feedback and tips and so on. We just recently had a great client here in the yoga space that they do yoga mats basically, and they have a massive community. I think they have like 20,000 people in there, and every single day there are tons of posts, and it creates a barrier, it creates a moat that makes it less likely that people are going to be able to copy them, and price is going to be less of a thing because of this community, right? So Facebook groups are really easy. Obviously, if you get bigger than that, you can create communities that also give you benefits on the website. So it could be like credits, points, it could be certain events, certain products. So sort of like a membership almost at that point. And that can be powerful too, because you're going to allow people to get things you can't get if you're not a member, right? So they want to be part of that inner circle. Memberships can be free, but it's a great way to get people back on the website. We just implemented this for a client where 5% of whatever you buy for, you get that in additional credits, which you can use on future purchases. And we then connected that with their email system, which means that we can basically tell them when they have points available, when they're about to expire. And it's a great way to get people back on the website and create an opportunity for people to buy more products. So anyway, those were my biggest mistakes growing my own e-commerce businesses. And I think if you do these things, you're going to see a more healthy and sustainable growth, but also way more profitable, which is obviously the number one thing you want to see as you're growing your communities and your e-commerce brands. So anyway, hopefully this was useful. Please do subscribe if you found this video useful, because I'm definitely going to be adding in more content if I see people liking it. Thanks guys. We'll talk soon.